What's up? In this video, we're doing a deep dive for Season 1, Episode 2 of House of the Dragon titled The Rogue Prince. We did an Episode 1 breakdown as well, so the link is in the description if you want to check it out. No time to waste, let's get going. We left off Episode 1 with Rhaenyra being named the heir, Queen Aemma dying in childbirth, and Prince Daemon being sent away. Episode 2 starts off with a longer classic Game of Thrones type of intro, which was pretty fucking dope as well. We also learned that it's been roughly 6 months since Queen Aemma has passed away.
The too long didn't read for this episode is that it does a lot for us in terms of character building, and by the end, you can see the faint outlines drawn between sections of the Targaryen family tree and the extensions for what's going to come up next.
Alright, there's two big events that occur in this episode. The first is Daemon taking Dragonstone, and the other is Viserys choosing a new wife. Let's first start with Daemon and Dragonstone. So Daemon steals a dragon egg and he takes over Dragonstone, which is a volcanic island and castle that technically belongs to Rhaenyra once she comes of age. Daemon has taken the men from the city watch and occupied Dragonstone for about half a year. The stolen egg is from the dragon Dreamfire, and it was originally intended for Balon. Daemon has brought Mysaria with him, who he declares will be his second wife and be the Lady of Dragonstone. According to Daemon, Mysaria is now pregnant, so the egg will be for their child. Now Mysaria has no clue Daemon is saying this shit. She's not pregnant and she did something to her body so that she can't get pregnant anymore. Either way, this causes a major issue and Viserys sends Otto to go get the egg back from Daemon. Otto pulls up with the Kingsguard, which includes Harold Westerling and the recently initiated Sir Criston Cole. We'll touch on how Cole got the job later on in this video. Anyways, Daemon pulls up with his gold cloaks and Lady Mysaria, and a tense convo ensues. I hate Otto, but his choice of words for Daemon is simply poetic.
This is an abomination. With every breath you soil your name, your house, and your brother's reign.
Daemon also talks some shit to Criston Cole, and we get this funny back and forth.
Sir Criston, wasn't it?
Sir Criston Cole, my prince.
Ah, yes, apologies. I couldn't recall.
Perhaps my prince recalls when I knocked him off his horse.
More words get exchanged and then swords are drawn. This prompts Daemon's dragon Caraxes to arrive, which gives Daemon the upper hand and forces Otto to fall back a bit. It looks like the egg will remain with Daemon until out of nowhere, Rhaenyra pulls up on Syrax and takes the negotiation over, speaking only Valyrian with Daemon. She reprimands Daemon for occupying what is her birthright. Daemon clearly has a soft spot for Rhaenyra since he starts looking guilty right away. Through their convo, we learn that Daemon was lying about Mysaria being pregnant, and since Mysaria can actually understand Valyrian, since I believe she's descended from a region that speaks it, she learns that Daemon was using her and storms off in anger. Rhaenyra then dares Daemon to kill her if he wants to become heir. Obviously, Daemon doesn't want to harm her, so he tosses the egg to her and storms off, pissed as fuck. Situation is diffused and Rhaenyra has successfully completed a negotiation that bitch-ass Otto couldn't do. Looking worthy to be the heir if you ask me. As she flies off, we can see Otto look out at her. I feel like even if Otto didn't want to admit it, his respect level for Rhaenyra definitely went up a ton in that moment. I think it's when he first realizes that she's going to be a serious contender for the throne and that he'll have to maneuver even harder.
Yeah, he was going to get barbecued or end up in a stalemate with no progress. The thing about Daemon taking Dragonstone that's even more concerning is that it's incredibly easy to defend compared to many other regions. So if Daemon was able to occupy that with a dragon in tow, it would be really hard to draw him out. No way the egg was going to come back if Rhaenyra didn't step in. She shows her boldness with this move and her willingness to use the dragons as a source of advantage. Remember, last episode, her father warned about dragons being more of a curse than a gift for their family.
The idea that we control the dragons is an illusion.
She rules through emotion because it's the very fact that this egg is the same egg her deceased little bro would have had. And we know Daemon's disrespect for that whole situation is heinous. She had no other choice. Mysaria threatened by childbirth was a cool line from her. On a rewatch, I didn't really realize how significant her character was in terms of the commentary she offers on social class, women's autonomy, and she also reveals some of Daemon's shortcomings too.
I came to you to be liberated.
Liberated. From what?
He picks the most vicious, heavy shock value ways to get things done, which can be useful as the leader of an army, but not really the traits of a well-rounded king. There are plenty of people who don't want to see this guy on the Iron Throne. I know for a fact this guy doesn't.
Alright, next up, let's talk about the second big storyline in this episode, Viserys choosing a new wife. So even though Viserys has chosen Rhaenyra as his heir, the realm expects him to remarry. This brings us to the question of who he'll wife up next. Alicent is obviously getting closer and closer to Viserys. She asks a bunch of questions when Viserys is yapping about his model of old Valyria, and she's just buttering him up.
Do you believe that Westeros can be another Valyria, Your Grace?
One of the stone dragon sculptures breaks and Viserys seems pretty sad.
These Alicent and Viserys scenes can get pretty off-putting. This also explains a little as to why Viserys might not be the greatest king. He's basically just a nice dude that really likes history. In modern times, he'd probably have a train set in his basement and a subscription to Discovery Channel Plus. Perfectly fine guy, just not somebody I'd trust to lead my kingdom.
Yeah, and similar to Rhaenyra, Alicent has also recently lost her own mother, so they do have some things in common, and it's pretty weird since Viserys then confides in Alicent about his relationship with Rhaenyra.
You do not mention our talks to Rhaenyra, do you?
So Alicent is basically acting as the secret keeper and person that Viserys can vent to when it comes to Rhaenyra.
It's heartfelt for a bit, but the trauma bond immediately becomes of less than pure intentions once you put together what Alicent is really trying to accomplish here.
What if your father were to remarry?
So Corlys Velaryon makes his own startling play when he offers up his 12-year-old daughter Laena to Viserys for marriage. Rhaenys isn't pumped about this move, but she still supports it because politically it would be smart. Corlys and Rhaenys even have Viserys take a garden stroll with Laena, and the entire scene is nuts. Viserys is incredibly uncomfortable during this entire walk. Laena looks young as fuck, and she's gotten the memo from Corlys and dutifully tells Viserys that she'll give him many strong heirs.
I would give you many children of pure Valyrian blood, so that we might strengthen the royal line and the realm.
They almost had me with their initial energy until they proposed a marriage to their 12-year-old daughter. Like she's several years younger than his own teenage daughter. I get that times were different back then, but goddamn. A common theme within most conversations people have with Viserys is that everyone wants something, and they know he's a combination of vulnerable or naive given the situation. Such is life on the Iron Throne.
Viserys is torn on the decision, so he gets some advice from Lionel Strong, who unlike Otto actually gives advice that isn't geared towards getting his own bloodline on the throne. Lionel believes that Laena Velaryon would be the right choice to marry, and he lists some good political reasons, such as strengthening the bond with Corlys and her Valyrian and Targaryen blood. Viserys then counters with the funniest response.
What's to mislike?
She is 12.
Lionel warns that this is the only way to make Corlys happy, and if this proposal is rejected, Corlys will most likely become an enemy of Viserys. Lionel's final recommendation is to marry Laena and solidify Corlys as an ally. Side note, the Grand Maester also thinks marrying Laena would make the most sense.
A match with their daughter would go a long way towards sealing the breach.
Obviously, Otto is against this, but fuck Otto.
Yeah, man. Otto is seething, and that look on his face says he knows the shot clock on his fuckery is ticking if this goes down. Which then makes it clear why he ramps up the efforts of his own daughter with Viserys immediately after. Similar to the convo with Rhaenyra and Alicent earlier about their mothers being gone, Otto and Viserys have a convo initiated mainly by Otto because he is trying to manipulate to save his little plan here about their late wives, and just shows the similarities from father and daughter on both sides. The downside of holding the seat of king is that you don't have a lot of people who are going to tell you like it is. However, from Strong on this one, he keeps it real, and he deserves some credit because he doesn't seem to have the ulterior motives that a lot of other members of the council do.
Yeah, and Viserys even confides to Alicent about the potential marriage to Laena, and Alicent looks disappointed. Let's be real, a part of Alicent does want to be queen. I think when true power is presented in front of you, everyone is susceptible to being corrupted. She also gets the broken dragon fixed for Viserys, and he's really happy about that.
We zoom in during this scene a little bit, and you can see Alicent picking roughly at her nails, which has happened a lot throughout the first 2 episodes. This hints at some kind of anxiousness or distress at what you just mentioned, Chen. She appears uncomfortable in a lot of these scenes, as though she's forcing a brave face to essentially satisfy what her father desires from her. A 15-year-old being put in this position is insane. In the book, she's rumored to be older than that, and Viserys is also younger than that. I think the age gap is closer to like 12 or 13 years, so these interactions take a way different tone than they do in the show.
So Viserys finally calls together the small council to announce his decision, and he chooses Alicent Hightower. Corlys is fucking pissed and storms off. Rhaenyra looks heartbroken and she storms off as well. Look at Otto's smug fucking face.
We had a feeling what was being leaned toward here based on Alicent simply being in the council room. Like, what could she possibly be doing here if she's not directly involved in the new marriage? I feel like Rhaenyra or Corlys should have picked up on that. But then again, Alicent is a fairly under-the-radar presence, and maybe her dad made some weird excuse for why she should be here. Not to spoil anything down the line, but this particular event causes so much bullshit to unfold in future episodes.
This is an absurdity.
Yeah, this decision is what ends up causing the realm to unfold into political upheaval. I think if Laena was older, Viserys would have made the right political choice, even though his heart was with Alicent. I can't really blame the man for not wanting to marry a 12-year-old though. Also, Viserys' time is ticking since his body continues to rot due to the cuts from the throne. The Grand Maester is now using maggots to treat the wound.
Can't help but notice the metaphor toward characters like Otto that the maggots around Viserys' wounds represent. Supposedly they're here to remove that which is already dead and then heal. However, we know the maggots feed on rot and seek it out for their own sustenance. Due to his weakness as a ruler, Viserys finds himself surrounded by these types of parasites.
Viserys' decision to marry Alicent permanently alters Rhaenyra and Alicent's relationship. The episode started off with Alicent and Rhaenyra getting vulnerable with each other because both of them have lost their mothers. They also both have dads who don't understand them, but obviously Otto is way shittier than Viserys. His constant pressuring of Alicent to go see the king ultimately succeeds in him getting Viserys to choose Alicent. Now, even though her father is mostly to blame, you gotta admit that Alicent has been pretty secretive about her late night meetings with Viserys, so you can't blame Rhaenyra for feeling backstabbed by all of this.
I mean, if we just take a look at how their relationship was portrayed in episode 1, Alicent has shifted quite a bit from the supportive friend in Rhaenyra's corner, who is basically there to guide her along. The repercussions they've both faced in their lives from losing their mothers is pretty obvious. With Rhaenyra, you can see the cracks starting to form. With Alicent, the fact that she takes all the cues from her father is a result of the fact she has no guidance around, because this is the only parental figure she has to go off of.
And as mentioned earlier, obviously Rhaenyra is fucking pissed at her dad. She finally came to peace with the fact that her dad had to remarry, but marrying her best friend is simply something her brain cannot process, and once again, I can't blame her. It also sucks for Rhaenyra since the entire episode is basically every lord in the realm discounting her claim to the throne. They all just assume that once Viserys remarries and has a son, Rhaenyra will no longer be heir. Even Rhaenys and Rhaenyra get into an argument over this, when Rhaenys brutally tells Rhaenyra that the realm won't accept a queen as a ruler. Rhaenyra's response is quite savage.
They denied you, Princess Rhaenys. The queen who never was.
It's funny though, because remember when I mentioned power corrupting? Alicent saw a real chance at being queen and actually got a bit competitive about it, whether it was conscious or not. Rhaenyra also kind of experienced the same thing. She didn't give a shit about any of this in episode 1, but once she actually became heir and people started doubting her, she started wanting it more and became more competitive about it as well.
As mentioned earlier, Rhaenys is still exerting influence on Rhaenyra.
Hey man, I mean, the game is the game.
Rhaenyra throwing it back was great. Rhaenys knows the game very well and operates within it. Losing her rightful place as heir contributed to that mindset and has also kept her a little bitter. Rhaenyra still wants to break the system.
When I'm queen, I will create a new order.
Vaguely reminds me of Dany as she wanted to consolidate power and thrones.
I'm not going to stop the wheel. I'm going to break the wheel.
Also, one more thing to mention. Before making his wild decision to marry Alicent, Viserys does tell Rhaenyra that she will always remain his heir. He even admits that he wavered a bit on maybe replacing her if he did have a son, but ultimately he kept his decision the same. Rhaenyra is his heir no matter what. Okay, now that we've covered the two major storylines in this episode, let's talk about some of the smaller stories. Let's start with the trouble at the Stepstones. We actually opened the episode with a shot of the Stepstones where we see absolute chaos. The crab feeder himself is taken over, ships passing through the area are being seized and ravaged. There's this gruesome scene where a heavily injured man is being eaten alive by crabs. The crabs have eaten through some of his foot skin right down to the bone. Fucking gnarly. Corlys Velaryon is obviously fucking heated since 4 ships have now been lost to the Triarchy and the last ship was flying his house banner. He wants to seize the Stepstones by force since they're growing more powerful by the day. Viserys, however, doesn't want to fight since it may be a sign of declaring war against the Free Cities. From what I understand, the Free Cities are 9 powerful independent city-states located across the narrow sea from Westeros. Fighting them would result in many losses. Viserys has sent some envoys to some of the Free Cities to try and find common ground, but it's a pretty passive move and Corlys thinks it's weak as fuck. Rhaenyra is listening and suggests that Viserys send dragon riders such as herself to handle the situation. Viserys obviously says no, but Corlys does respect her balls.
The visuals we get of the Stepstone situation make it seem borderline hellish the way the light falls on the inlet and the mixture of fog with the mutilation occurring all around it. We get why Corlys would be so pissed. He stands to lose the very thing that empowers his house if this spirals out of control. Is Otto using his influence to screw over Driftmark? Very possible. What is Otto doing really aside from pushing his underage daughter toward Viserys? It's dangerous to have dudes like this around a ruler because it causes rot at the foundation of a kingdom. This calls back to the maggot metaphor, and there are some true parallels between the Targaryens/Valyrians and the Roman Empire. The corruption and ineffective government were more common as Rome fell versus when it was in its prime. Viserys is super cautious on this one. Rhaenyra thinking of making a big move due to her newfound power with the heir title does fit in with the end of episode 1 when she gives the impression that she's not down for the bullshit and she's not going to be cool with remaining on the sidelines like many women of Targaryen royal standing have in the past.
So Viserys is not only fine with Corlys getting his ships taken in the Stepstones, he then further offends Corlys by choosing to marry Alicent Hightower instead of Laena Velaryon. Corlys is a proud man, and he is someone who's put in serious work to get to where he's at, so he calls Daemon to his home in Driftmark. Corlys proposes that Daemon come fight in the Stepstones and earn his honor. Viserys has denied Corlys from sending his own navy in, but Corlys is saying fuck it and going in anyways. His house will be crippled if the Stepstones fall, so he's going and he invites Daemon to join him.
Daemon is absolutely the man for the job if you want this sicko deposed. I like the angle Corlys spins on this to create a win-win. Everyone's just trying to manipulate everybody around here. Also, Daemon is a complex dude in how he defends his brother yet simultaneously roasts the shit out of him.
But he's denied me.
It was never my brother's strongest trait.
What?
Being king.
This could be because he wants to remind Corlys that he's the next true heir, and that even if Corlys' plan works out, Daemon's still next up.
As mentioned earlier, we're going to expand on how Criston Cole became a member of the Kingsguard, so let's wrap up this video explaining how that happened. The Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, Sir Ryam, has passed away, so a replacement needs to be found. Sir Harold Westerling now becomes the Lord Commander, but they still need to find another member as a replacement, since we need to have 7 members. Sir Harold has a bunch of candidates, and Viserys sends Rhaenyra to go interview them. Many of the knights have good tournament experience, but none of them have real combat experience, except for Sir Criston Cole, who fought for a year as a foot soldier against the Dornish incursions. Rhaenyra chooses Criston Cole since he's got legit experience, but Otto wants Rhaenyra to choose a knight for political reasons. Otto is such a fucking bitch. Anyways, Rhaenyra would rather choose a knight with real fighting experience, which makes way more sense, so Criston Cole gets a promotion to the 7.
Rhaenyra going against Hightower's stiff political pragmatism during the Kingsguard selection is awesome because it proves that she's not going to let his bullshit slide. He cannot manipulate her like he does Viserys.
Alright, that does it for our episode 2 breakdown. We'll be back with episode 3 very soon. Thanks for watching. Catch y'all later.